And that, my friends, is how you do a Doctor Who episode. I'm Rosianna and this is my reaction video to The Doctor's Wife, so obviously spoilers for this episode. I absolutely loved it. It was by far my favourite episode of any of the episodes with the 11th Doctor. The closest second would probably be Vincent and the Doctor. A simple premise and executed beautifully. Neil Gaiman, who wrote this episode, did such a tremendous job. And that was the characterisation that I wanted. I'm interested in the Doctor. I want to know about him. I want to know more about how he functions. It's wonderful hearing the TARDIS say that she took him where he needed to go because we've known it all along. Having that confirmation come from her is just, it was so well done. I absolutely love this episode. Suranne Jones, who played the TARDIS, is a wonderful, wonderful British actress, and she did an absolutely exceptional job being the TARDIS. She was the right amount of kind of cool and weird. She reminded me a lot of Helena Bonham Carter, funnily enough, in the sense that she was kind of mad, but she put her own spin on it, and she was mad in a very controlled way, which is something that I think Helena Bonham Carter does well, but also does slightly differently. So it was really cool. The whole thing had a very steampunk vibe about it, in the sense of like lots of found objects and the patchwork and things like that, and I think that's what Neil Gaiman is really, really good at. It reminded me lots, weirdly, of the late Diana Wynne Jones's writing, in the sense, like, you know, the Howl's Moving Castle, that kind of, that mindset, that fantasy, that area of fantasy is very specific. It's hard to describe, you can't quite put your finger on what it is about those areas of fantasy, but it was very good. I like that we never saw House. I like that House was just this disembodied being. The roles themselves of uncle and nephew, and seeing the Ood again, but the Ood not being like, and seeing the Ood again, but the Ood not being this part of the storyline that is necessarily moralistic. He's just another one of the found objects. And it's cool that the Ood have now been integrated into the mythology of Doctor Who in such a way that we all know that they are kind of human slaves. We have come to know their history. My favourite thing about this is the way in which Gaiman integrated stories from Russell T Davies and before. I mean, just even the references to the Doctor seeing the TARDIS and the TARDIS saying, "I saw you, I wanted to see the universe," this kind of shared love of wanting to explore. It was done, like, I'm freaking out. I wish I'd kind of been a bit calmer about this or taken notes while I'd watched it. I couldn't even stop to think for a second because it was so good. I like the way that Amy and Rory were separated from the action with the TARDIS, because I think that was nice to see lots of kind of intimate connection between the Doctor and his TARDIS, because it's something that you don't really want to have to be explaining all the time, so it was great that the scenes allowed them to talk to each other. We have so much focus on them in every episode, you know, as we should, because they're companions, that it's nice to kind of put them off and have them explore parts of the TARDIS. And Amy's fears, the kind of boggart, as it were, of Rory with the die, Amy, die all over the walls. They're presented really psychotically, and it was very brave of them to do that kind of presentation for a family show, because I wonder whether they'll get criticism for that, but it was very, very well done. And I also wonder whether Rory actually saw anything similar himself. I suppose like that's the question. But the playing with gravity, the exploration of the TARDIS archive, archiving the old control room. There was a clip of 9 and 10's control room in one of the trailers, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, is 10 coming back? Is 9 coming back? What's going on? Like, are we gonna hear from alternate universe 10? Is he gonna grow in a TARDIS or something?" And I think that this is so fully Matt Smith's era that I don't think they would have done that. But it was really lovely to just have that reminder of the past and of the old TARDIS. And seeing things like this just reminded me so much of the parting of the ways, and when Rose becomes Bad Wolf, like it had those resonances, obviously, and it was just, I loved it. I loved it. The joke about the bunk beds at the very end was funny. The beautiful bit at the end when the TARDIS is kind of suspended and it says, "I've never got a chance to say hello." Imagine if the objects and the things that are important to us and that we interact with every day and have this almost, we feel sometimes, passive relationship with, if they could interact with us in a way like that, it just opens up this whole imaginative communication, and the fact that the TARDIS is kind of listening to the Doctor. I mean, it's wonderful. I thought it was a really beautiful episode. I already know one person who didn't like it, so we shall see what Kaylee thinks. The TARDIS graveyard was very cool. Reminded me a bit of Lion King, actually, which is funny because there's lots of Lion King stuff in Doctor Who. The elephant graveyard. I thought it was really cool how they built their own TARDIS from the other TARDISes. This is the problem when I actually do like an episode, because there's so much that I like that I can't form consensus, which is a really good place on which to found a reaction video. The dialogue was very sharp. I just thought the language was very good, and oh, the playing with the tenses That was exciting. When the TARDIS would say things that haven't been said yet, and she's kind of containing all these possible words that are going to be spoken in her everyday vocabulary, and it was just really well done, and I loved it. I really liked this episode. The end. Alonso! Hello, Doctor. It's so very, very nice to meet you. Look at you pair. It's always you and her, isn't it, long after the rest of us have gone? The boy in his box, off to see the universe. Well, you say it as if it's a bad thing, but honestly, it's the best thing there is. And my favourite. Biting's excellent. It's like kissing, only there's a winner.